Hey guys, welcome to Maniacs. And I usually say an episode number, but because of the lives and things, I think we're on episode 16, but I got to double check that. So today we are speaking with Chris, and he was a World Harvest Bible College student from 1997 to 2001. And he also was worked at World Harvest Church and was a congregant member as well. And we have spoken, and he just wants to tell the many experiences that he had while he was there and how they've affected him, unfortunately, even till today in 2024. So please help me welcome Chris to Maniacs. Hi, Chris. Welcome to Maniacs. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, in all of my episodes, I always start off by, just asking for kind of a brief description on what led you to World Harvest Church and World Harvest Bible College, and then kind of how things went from there. So, if you don't mind just giving us a brief synopsis of that.
Yeah, great question. So I do know that when I was 12 years old, had an encounter with God that I can never forget. If anything was true in my life, that I really felt God's hand touch me. It was when I was 12, didn't really understand anything about God. As my mom would take me to church, from time to time, and thank God for that. But I just wanted to be saved, and so I thought it was something you had to, almost buy or get with just continually begging God. But I was, it's kind of funny. I was in a shower, and I don't know, just God touched me, man. That's all I knew. And I remember screaming to my mom. I'm like, "Hey, Mom, I got saved." Greatest feeling of my life, the purest feeling, and I'll never forget that moment of just pure joy, just feeling clean. And so that was my journey, my start with just kind of like trying to figure out who God is, what he's about, and, what does he want me to do? So, I most like, everybody else goes into life and you get into your teenage years and you party and you get a little crazy and stuff. And so, yeah, I did that, got involved with some different friends and drugs. But I always felt the pull in my heart, like, Chris, I felt like God was just saying, "Chris, this is not what you're meant to do. Come on, let's go." And so I always had this passion or desire. And I would tell my friends, I remember telling my friends at parties, I'm like, "Man, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this with you guys." Now, what do you mean? What do you mean, Chris? What are you talking about? Hanging out, drinking, smoking, doing stuff. I want to serve God. And I would tell them that. They would just look at me like crazy, but I did. And so finally I went to a church in Ohio, Troy, Ohio, and went in there and experienced something I had never seen before in my life, where people were, being prayed for, touched on the head, and they would fall down. And it actually happened to my mom, and it scared me really bad because it was the first time I'd ever been there, and I thought something was wrong with her. And so anyway, fast forward, through maybe 3 years of that, and then learning more about World Harvest and seeing it on TBN, watching it, adamantly, constantly, just wanting to fill my ears and my life and my heart with anything that was God. I was hungry. I was passionate. Just a sincere, pure desire to find God and know who he is. And I think I got started out in a really bad way because it was a mini World Harvest Church. It was all by how many times you attended church. It was by how you made sure you were given offerings and, your tithes and doing all the things right that leaders wanted you to do. And if you went against them, you were in rebellion or you were bucking the system. So anyway, so I thought God called me to go to World Harvest Church, Bible College. And moved up there in the summer of 1997 with one of my friends from the home church, who we moved in together. I didn't have the money at the time to get started in school right away, so I just got a job. And I did ask for some help and assistance from my home church, like, hey, do you think you could help me out? I want to go to school. I think it was $900.
It is time for this generation of slumbering saints to arise and shake a nation with a demonstration of power and service. This is our moment. We're about to rise up. I'm about to rise up, all of my people. We're about to rise up. Here we come now. We're about to rise up, all of my people. We're about to rise up.
Come to World Harvest Bible College to be equipped with the tools to shake the nations. Join us as we learn to praise and worship God on a whole nother level. Be taught the Word by anointed men and women of God, and be trained to reach our generation through music, dance, one-on-one, and service evangelism.
I said, well, trust God. And finally did make it into World Harvest Bible College by saving money and doing my thing. And I think I entered in 1998 spring semester, I believe.
Okay.
And so that was World Harvest Church. There's a lot more to that. I guess we can get to those, other topics, but that's how I got to World Harvest Church and kind of what started me off.
So when you were at your home church initially, did they know that your desire was to move down to Columbus and go to World Harvest, or was that kind of like an afterthought once you got down there and didn't really have the money to start?
No, yeah, they knew. I was telling them for, quite a while that, I wanted to go. I remember at least, about a year for sure, because I was trying to save money. I was going to live with my parents for a while because I was living with some of my hoodlum friends at the time. And so I moved back in with my mom and stepdad and saved some money. And then the eaglet had to be kicked out of the nest, is the sermon that my home the preacher at the church I was attending preached, and it was about me. It happens a lot, but I don't know, there was something there. I don't know. And so my parents made me move back out, so I had to get my own apartment. I'm like, I'm just trying to save money and I'm going to be out of here. It didn't work out as
And how old
well,
were
but
you? Not to interrupt you. How old were you at the time?
Was 21 or 22, I believe.
Okay. So not like 17 or 18 years old.
No. I took a couple of years when I got out of high school to have fun. Crazy. Not what I thought was fun.
Okay.
You just want me to continue on with. So, being there at World Harvest, the church, and being involved heavily in the youth ministry at the time, had a really, I would say, strong leader of a youth minister that came in and got a job there, was doing a really good job with the youth. It was really growing, and it was an exciting time from what I knew that had always or ever happened there. So, the youth was exciting. I was a youth leader. And so they were building the ministry activity center when I had just started attending there. And, they were pouring, the walls and putting it was in the very beginning stages. And so they needed help out there building it. And so I went out and talked to a guy, and he was the leader of the construction crew, and I got in with them, and he hired me. And next thing you know, I was at World Harvest, and I was on staff, and it felt good because I felt like, man, closer to God, doing God's work. I'm involved in seeing all these things and experiencing all these things. And so it was a neat time. I was excited at the time. And, I had a lot of energy back then. So I did. I served a lot. I worked a lot, and went to Bible college at the same time. And
So, I mean, when you first started working there and going to school there, you said that you were kind of helping out with the youth, and was that like younger kids, or that was more like closer to your age?
yeah, it was the teens, teenagers. It was a exchange youth ministry. And
Okay.
so Joey Perea was the youth pastor, really good. He was a great uh, influence in my life, a mentor, and I really needed somebody like him because, and I feel bad for him now because I've seen some things that have happened to him in his life, and I always just go back to the way this so-called ministry turns out people that fall on hard times because they don't really have a good understanding or maybe foundation or support system, or I don't know what you'd call it. But it's sad because he was really powerful back at the time. uh, I remember the first time he come up to me and just looked me in the eyes. I'm a young man, doesn't really know a whole lot about life and trying to figure out what's what, and him just saying, "Hey, I believe in you." And that was so powerful. And so I
Mhm.
really liked him. Joey was doing a great job that I thought. I knew there were some things going on behind the scenes or heard. And then the next thing you know, one day, I get a phone call. They called us all into a wing, and we sat down in the boardroom, and Canfield and somebody else came in, and we were the main leaders in the youth. And so I'm like, we're all sitting there like, what's? And so they told us that Jay Perea wasn't no longer a youth minister, and I was just devastated. I mean, I don't know
Mhm.
why and I looked at other folks, and they were just kind of like, not a big deal. But I remember going home and just bawling my eyes out because I didn't understand it. I thought, well, wait a minute, this is like, why would God, um, and I just bawled. My friends were like, "What's wrong?" I says, "He's leaving." And they were used to something like that, maybe, but I didn't think God worked that way. So it affected me
And
pretty
did they
bad.
say why? I mean, did they say why? Because there's so many situations which we've talked about in other episodes where, you know, seemingly people are there, they're in sort of leadership positions, and they seem to be doing a good job, and then all of a sudden they disappear. And there seems to always be some narrative after the fact that they were stealing, or they did something against the ministry, but not necessarily ever really the truth of what happened. And I just am wondering if they said to you why he left.
They never really gave us an answer, and I don't know that I ever got an answer, even though I did, in later years get reconnected with Joey Prayer. And I never really got a good story, but what I did hear, is that Joey kind of was doing a good job, and I don't think that Rod Parsley was recognizing that, and maybe there was promises that I even saw go undelivered. Like the Ministry
Oh, okay.
Activity Center, it wasn't for the youth; it was for the school. It was for, I mean, I guess it was for youth, but not in the type of way they were portraying it on the big screens, in the morning when they would be raising money, or it'd be on, TBN
Okay.
for pouring the floor, raise the roof. It wasn't turning out to be what they were saying, and maybe that had something to do with why Joey kind of got a little bit aggravated. Maybe he went to, this is my theory of what I think happened. He went to, Parsley, and, "Hey, I'm, what's going on? I've been here a year. I've developed this. I've done that. We've made this, and this is good." And I don't think that he liked that. And maybe that was when, they butted heads,
Okay.
and, had to part ways, separate. And then he went out to Colorado and joined another ministry. And did some stuff with some youth there, but I don't know.
Okay.
But it
Okay.
was
Well,
was
and
was
sometimes
was.
we'll never know the truth, right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
sometimes well, it's always different perspectives, but it's really sad of how many times that's happened throughout the years, long before I worked there, and it still continues today, unfortunately.
Well, I was rattled because I thought, this man is a great guy. He's doing a lot. He's probably getting a good salary. He's there all the time. I mean, he'd be there at 6 in the morning. He'd be there. The the way it is there. And so one day I was with him. He was trying to buy a car, and out of respect, I left. But I heard the conversation because the guy asked him, what's your salary? And when I heard his salary, I was like, holy cow, he ain't making nothing, and his wife worked there. It was weird. It was different. There wasn't an appreciation there. But I don't know. Maybe Joey had some things on his end that were off as well. But I do know the things I saw, the things I heard, the things I experienced, and the conclusions I drew. In the end, I would probably have been mad too. I probably could have had a little bit of an attitude and went to Rod Parson and said, "Hey, what's going on here? This isn't what you
Hmm.
thought, or this is what I thought it would be, or what you told me it would be, maybe."
Absolutely. So, you talked about working on the construction crew, and I know eventually you kind of moved over to the HVAC department, or worked in that. But what was your experience like when you were working was the construction crew? I just want to clarify, the construction crew was actually employed by World Harvest Church, or it was a separate entity, like a different company?
I believe it was employed by World Harvest. I think that's what,
Okay.
if I can remember, that's where my paychecks, were coming from. Um,
Okay.
you know, Construction crew is made up of Uncle Willie, a good old man, Parsley's uncle,
Okay.
some of his sons, some other Bible college students, some other talent that they were able to find around. And yeah, we were the crew that did everything from pour the floor to put the joists that are hanging in there today, put the metal roof on, you know, the HVAC to the very end, and seen a lot of. That's when I started noticing more like what's going on here? Why are things happening this way? And it kind of confused me. I had an experience one time where I was working. We were pouring some of the floor, and there was a concrete pump running, and they had shut it down, and they were going to clean it out. And so they stick a foam ball in it, and with water, and then it goes through this line, uh, and it gets all the maybe hardened concrete out, to clean it. So, and I didn't know they were doing that. I was around in a different area, and you can't hear the thing when it starts up. They shouldn't have started it up, but they didn't look. And I don't know. The next thing I know is I heard somebody yell, and then I was holding the tube that the concrete would come out of. Well, this ball, when it comes out, it's like it's coming out with massive power, and it's got water and concrete and just, I mean, as you really got to have two guys holding it, or you got to be standing on it, or put the backhoe bucket on it, because it's got some force. And I was holding it, and it had enough length in it that it kind of did this, and it came right around back at me and hit me exact dead square in my midsection, which dropped me to the ground. And I swear I thought it was over. I was gonna put my hand down there and just see blood. And I laid there and was just, everybody's freaking out, and they were going to call the ambulance. And I was like, no, hold on. And then I finally, after about 15 minutes, I was able to catch my breath, and I was bruised. I was hurt. I was limping for a while. But anyway, when I've seen things like, I was bad, but I did not go to the hospital. They didn't go get checked out or anything like that. And it was Thanksgiving. The next day was the day before Thanksgiving. And I remember the girl that used to do our payroll, she said, "Now, Chris, I know you're hurt, but if you don't work tomorrow, the half a day tomorrow, you won't get paid for Thanksgiving." And I was like, okay. So she's like, just come in and do, the bare minimum. And I mean, I'm talking, it was, and I didn't think about it then, but now that I think about it, it's like, man, I should have, number one, been sent to the hospital. I mean, everybody, there's people I have that are friends. But one of my good friends, that I'm with, him and his wife and his family are great people. He always he'll mention it every now and then, man, that time that happened. So but that was an experience. But yeah, things like that. And then I knew we had goals. We would be in the sanctuary, and they would be raising money for pour the floor or raise the roof. And I knew that we had already beat these goals because the displays they would put in the front, and they would show that, limits had already hit their, we would celebrate and everybody. And then 6 months down the road, a year down the road, I would see TBN playing, trying to raise money to pour the floor. And I'm like, that's weird. We did that
for things you've already done. And I think
yeah, and
Pastor Dan talked about that when I interviewed him. Now, he was there a couple years later after you, but I think he was talking about that that D wing or somewhere down by the Mac, and that they had staff members come in and make it, kind of tear up the place to make it look like it was incomplete when in fact it was already done, but they wanted to raise more money. So did anything, I mean, I know you said that they were raising money for something that had already been done for a year. But did they ever ask you guys to go along with it, or make it look like things were incomplete when in fact they were not?
Not that I can remember.
Okay.
I don't recall anything like that. I know that
But did
sometimes
anybody talk about it? Because surely you were not the only one to see the broadcast on TBN that they were still trying to raise money for something that was complete. I mean, was anyone talking about that?
no, I don't think. I think there's a fear there that you don't you don't you don't want to stir the pot. You don't want to challenge what's going on. You just kind of go with it, and that's the thing that aggravates me so much about that business. I'm not even going to call it a ministry, because it's a business, and they're trying to make money. And no, I don't think people do, because they're too afraid. They were too afraid to go against the anointing, or lose the mantle, or be in rebellion. Don't speak about it. Just ignore it and keep going on, and let's get this next feat accomplished.
Sure. And that's a fear that, still exists today. And I hear it and experienced it. And so many people, even, from the 90s, will say, I'll talk to you, but I don't want to do it publicly, because they are still in fear of repercussions from stuff
Yeah.
that they experienced, 30 years ago or more. So,
Robin,
so yeah, yeah,
no, I just wanted to say, I was too. I was afraid. I didn't want to do this. Had concerns, but you know what? I'm to a point in life where I feel like it's important to speak about it, because my spirit was crushed. I was raised on a false pretense that later on in life, when I did get done with Bible college and moved on with life and got married and started doing what I thought God was calling me to do, and was back into the home church, the mafia, lower mafia members of World Harvest Church, that ministerial fellowship or whatever.
the
I'm back
Ministerial
there serving.
Alliance.
Yeah, thinking I'm
Okay.
I'm involved in some, that we're the only ones that are going to heaven, and we got to do this thing for God. And now I'm repeating the same patterns to of how I've been treated. And I don't want to get too far ahead, but this mentality of I'm the leader and I'm right and you're wrong, and let's do this. And I've got that same attitude and mentality, and I'm treating people bad, and I'm speaking to them illy, and I'm putting them under this condemnation, because they're not there all the time. And it's sad, because it's not what God is. It is not what God is. 100%, and I've seen so many people hurt. I've got friends today that I've got one that I know is struggling tremendously. One of my roommates at college, he's in Alabama, and I feel for this man. He's lost a lot of his family, struggles with alcohol very bad. And he saw things that he's even told me, Chris, I was sitting on the roof one night with a gentleman that was leading the construction crew, and talking about how corrupt the ministry is. And this guy is close to Rod Parsley. He ended up moving later on, after when the project was completed, but he knew it. And his wife worked in A-Wing for some reason. It only lasted like a month, and then she quit. But we were close to them, me and my roommate. And he told me, he said, Chris, did you know that they don't, that when Rod Parsley comes out at the beginning of the year and says, hey, this is the year of Jubilee, and this is where God showed me, and this is what we're going to do. And he says, and we're excited, and we're thinking that that's all, what God has put on his heart.
How would you like it if you had to live in a house that didn't have a roof? God's house is laying in ruins. If we don't do something now, if I don't tell these builders, go! They have already told me if I don't tell them within the next 2 weeks they can start, they refuse to start until next May. It's going to sit there till May. I don't have a dollar yet. Not a dollar. And I'm not going to the bank. I don't have to ask the bank, can I do what God told me to do? God told me, raise the roof. I walked around with that word for almost 48 hours. Raise the roof. What are you talking about? I thought he was talking about celebration in here. And they came to me and they said, Pastor, we're out of money. We don't have a dime. We don't get a roof on this place by November 22nd. If we don't do it, by the time that bad weather hits, it's going to sit till May. We're going to waste thousands of dollars. Steel is rusting. The thing is, you know what it's like if you walk away from a property and leave it alone for a year. Weeds are growing up through the house of God. It breaks my heart. And it would be so easy. I've had 3 different banks come along. Oh, so you're building that building. Like some money? Want some money? You know how hard it is to say no? But I can't, because God told me not to. Now, everybody shout, raise the roof. Here's what I'm asking for. It's 20 weeks till November the 22nd. 20 weeks. By then, the roof's going to be on that building. Now, I'm going to tell you this. That's 80,000 square feet. We can put the roof on it. We can put the roof on it for $500,000. We can put the whole roof on the whole thing and get it out of the weather. Go over there and pull that off yonder for me. And give me one of my roof trusses. Where's my roof trusses? Where's my roof trusses? Give me one of my trusses, Darren. I had these replicas of those steel joists made. And if you can look up, pull that one off over there. I didn't have 2 of them made to sit and look at one of them covered up. On one side, just pull it. Jerk the daylights out of it. Get the dumb thing off there. If you look on one side, it says committed. On the other side, it says actual. Here's what I'm asking for. I want 1,000 people with $500. If you can't give the whole $500 today, I'm giving you till November the 22nd to give it. But I need everybody that can possibly give it today to give it today, because I got to start. We got to go Monday morning. We got to go. We got to fire the engines up, start moving steel, and get ready to go. John Laria, stand up. You got a calculator? I'm not playing around this morning. I'm not playing around. I want every person who will say, Pastor, we're going to raise the roof. We're going to put the roof on the thing. And I'm going to give $500 today. Now I'm giving $500 for me, John. Start counting. $500 for me, $500 for Joni, $500 for Ashton, $500 for Austin. I'm giving the first $2,000 this morning. I learned, brother. I sowed $2,000 when the prophet of God, R.W. Shambach, stood here and said, give $2,000. Couldn't even articulate why God said give $2,000. He just said, the Lord said to me, $2,000. That's all I need to hear. I gave $2,000. 3 days later, a man walked up to me and said, I've had your son on my heart. And here's a check for your son. It can't be used for anything else. It's for your son, for his education, for his well-being. Here's $50,000. Oh, you'd be shouting if it was your 50. I got no problem sowing $2,000 today. I don't know why God said to me 1,000 people with $500. I don't know. We've got a lot more than $500,000 to go on that building. But God spoke to me, and when God spoke that to me, I then asked them. They're all here today. They can tell you what a prophetic unction I've been under. I said, how much is it going to cost? God spoke to me that we were to raise the roof, and God spoke to me to ask 1,000 people for $500. Now that's $500,000. How much is it going to cost to put the roof on that building? They pulled out the papers. It was like $500,000 and $522,000 or something like that. Don't tell me I don't know what I'm doing in the Spirit. I know exactly what I'm doing. I want somebody to help me raise the roof. Every person that will say, Pastor, I'm going to join you. I'm going to give $500, and I'm going to do it today. I'm going to do it today. There's a place. Where are those?
He's been in prayer and meditating, and maybe he has. I don't know. But when I heard that they bring in a marketing company every year to make this stuff up to keep the place going and making money, I just about fell out of my chair. It hurts because I had a sincere heart. I was very pure and passionate about just wanting to know who God was and finding out the trueness of God. And I got really damaged there. And it's taken me years to get through that and get better and move on with life and find God in my own way, where I'm very confident in. And if I've said anything in this and somebody from that church or that ministry or that business says, Chris, we need to talk to you, or we're going to do something, bring it, because it's ridiculous. The people they're hurting, the money they're taking. It's sad when you watch Juanita Bynum on stage and people are throwing their diamond engagement rings. And literally ushers have to stand around her to guard her so she doesn't get hit in the head by a gold ring, and then if you don't have anything, bring it down. I don't care if it's your shoes, bring it down here. And the whole platform is lined with shoes from one end to the other, because that's all a poor Bible college student can give. And then at the very end of the service, Rod Parsley says, now listen, God sees your heart. And if this is your only pair of shoes, I want you to come back down here and get it. I want you to get them. I don't want you walking out of here with shoes on, no shoes. And I was like, wait a minute, what about if that was the diamond engagement ring that you've had for 50 years or you just got? You're keeping the rings, but you're giving the shoes back, right? Because you can't get a whole lot of money out of that.
Right.
Interesting, right?
Come on, tell somebody else, I got it. I can sense it. I can feel it. I can smell it. I got it. You better go into a radical praise right now, because you got it. You better praise the name of the Lord. I got it. Come on, here's something getting ready to erupt in this place. Come on, something getting ready to erupt in this place. And it's got something to do with money. revolution. A revolution. The Lord said, overthrow poverty right now. Overthrow it with a shout. Overthrow it. Now, let the weak say I'm strong. Now, let the poor say I'm rich. Come on, overthrow it. It's a revolution. Some of y'all ain't used to praising God for money. Some of y'all scared to praise God for money. Money comes with dominion. Money comes with dominion.
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
There's words I could use. It makes me mad, and see people. I've seen a recent clip of Ashton getting up there saying that people that were coming in and stealing from the ministry and were I forget what words she were using, that they were just
She wasn't
leaving.
that it was Valor. Yeah, basically Valor. She was calling out Valor students, or for like Valor alumni and World Harvest Bible College alumni for not giving back to the vision and
Yep.
the ministry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calling them.
And-
There was a
and you're
name she
reprobate.
used. Reprobates. That's it. And when I
Yeah.
heard that, and then I heard Rod Parsley say, "Prophesy, prophet," I thought, you know what?
Ate and you left your dung and you've done nothing to reinvest in the vision. You're a reprobate.
You better
The
talk to
Bible
those
calls
preachers
you-
out there.
The Bible calls you a reprobate.
Prophesy, prophet.
That means
This is crazy. This is absolute disgusting. You guys are so far from what I believe God truly is about and wants. And I pray, I don't know nobody together. I don't know. I don't want nothing bad to happen to anybody in this world. I don't like, to have that type of a mentality, but man, the way they're doing things, it scares me, because I watch my life and I try and have a moral compass that's in line with God's word and try and follow that. Am I perfect? No. But man, to get that far off and have thousands, and it's at one time probably millions of people all over the world that are listening to you, and you've taught this. We earn it. We come to church on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. If we're not here, we're missing it. We're not under the anointing, the flow, and that just messes people up. It hurts them. It sets them up for failure. They don't know who God is. They don't understand what God's about. You have to buy, you have to give, offerings to get special blessings. It just makes me sick. So sorry for the little rant there, but
No, but it's true. And unfortunately, so many people have those experiences, and then it does carry on because you have your hopes up that you are doing the right thing, and you are giving and working and volunteering unto the Lord, and then you find out that all of this other stuff is going on behind the scenes, but that it's much more a business than a ministry, and the head leadership is very corrupt, and they're saying and doing things that are not true. They are swindling people out of their hard-earned money, and then the other people are giving their blood, sweat, and tears there for nothing more than a very meager paycheck. But then in your situation, to be told, like, I know you're hurt, but if you don't work tomorrow, you're not getting your holiday pay. I mean, no compassion. But people are, I don't know if they're programmed that way, if they're desensitized, if it's kind of a mixture of both, because you almost have to get away from it to even and for a period of time, even to even realize how outlandish and how much pain and suffering and things that you were tolerating when you were there.
Tolerating, desensitized, those are great words. And I think you nailed it there. Yeah, the people I've seen that do get away from it, they usually come out and do good and they get over things. But there's a lot of them that just stay in that mentality, and they have some hardship in life and they fall on, drugs, alcohol, or whatever it is. I've seen it happen, and it's so sad because I knew these people at one time and they were great, great, great people. And I'm not saying they are now. It's just they're suffering. And so, I seen a guest you had on, and I don't like to mention names, and so I'm not, but he was saying about, how adamant Rob Parsley was about somebody didn't pick up the trash. And I seen, you weren't allowed to approach Ellen Parsley without her, coming to you and saying, you're taught these rules there. Like, these are some people that are, just such great people, and they're on a pedestal. And that guy that was on said, he said, I just wonder what stopped him from picking that trash up. Is he above that? Why didn't he just do it? I mean, and that's what my thought is about ministry, is like, there's nobody better than anybody. We're all, the first shall be the last shall be first. And so this thing that's going on there, and not just there, but ministries all over the world that are using this format, it's wrong. It's deceiving people. It's hurting people. It's discouraging. And I almost believe it might, I hate to say it, it could be possibly maybe what the devil is trying to do. It's one of his great tools that he's using. And it's sad because people just want peace. There's a scripture that talks about, and I can't tell you exactly which one it is, but Jesus was telling a parable about a man walking through the desert, and he was tired. He was hot. He was thirsty, and he saw a cave, and he went in there to seek shelter. And when he did, a brood of vipers got a hold of him and killed him. So I've studied that, and I've heard that interpretation the way that it really is. And it's basically a church. There was a man walking, a man that was hurt, a woman that was hurt, a child, a kid, a teenager, somebody that was hurt, looking for help and shelter, a drink of cold water, or just a place to rest. And I mean, this gets me because there's people that are hurting and just want to go into a church and find something there that will help them out of their heartache. And what happens is a bunch of people, and maybe not even willingly knowing it, maybe I was one of those people that did it, grab a hold of them like those vipers and start to choke them and kill them. And then the next thing you know, those people are they're another part of that business, and they're being deceived, and now they're deceiving others. And it's just like it's the abusive pattern that goes on from sexual abuse to physical abuse, and this is spiritual abuse. And I did go to a counselor, and he said, Chris, there's two very, very, very powerful things that happen in this world, and one of them, the worst, is rape, abuse to a child. And if that stuff is true, the things that I have heard about that at World Harvest, I don't know. But if it's true, God, I pray for your soul, because if you actually did that, if you're part of that, you have gotten into a whole different era of life, or a frame of mind of God and denial that I couldn't even dream of, to hurt somebody. But that being the worst, I had to chase that side note for a second. God help you. God help you if you were part of that, or if you did that. God help you. And those people that were hurt, God, please help them.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
When you talk about that specifically about abuse to children, is that something that you heard or were somewhat aware of when you were there, or is that something that you're speaking about that that you've heard since the podcast started?
I heard hints of it before I even knew about you. I heard hints of it, after I left there. There was one person I knew and personally very well. He was a great person. I don't want to say names. I don't want to get involved in that because I don't know the truth. But I heard those stories, and
And I
breaks my
think we
heart.
have alluded to the person that you're talking about on the podcast, and I will never say her name either. But it's been discussed by more than a couple of people, and people that knew it to be true, but
Yeah,
and she was there and then she wasn't.
yeah, and I've heard that. I've heard that not from one person, not from you, but several. So sad if you abuse them. God help your soul. God help you. So sexual abuse and the things you talk about on this is very important. Nobody should ever harm anybody in that way, physically and sexually. Never should it ever happen. And then the next thing is spiritual abuse. You do not spiritually abuse a person. You don't take advantage of what the pureness of God that's inside of them, trying to find their purpose in life, knowing God and the fullness of who He is. And you use those folks for your agenda to build your empire or your kingdom. I mean, the folks that were working there, and camp meeting was the week that we that were on staff, we put our 40 in, but you were expected to put in as much as you could give. And that,
Absolutely.
and
Whatever
the
it
people
takes.
that gave, the people that put in more were the people that got noticed and pulled up on the platform. And I remember this one guy, he was picking up trash, and I think, anyway, Rod Parsley pulled him up, and so they make these people, they stand them up in front of everybody, and they know that it only encourages other folks to try harder, and you're never good enough. But at the end of the week, as long as you showed that you were there for an extra 40 hours, you got a camp meeting set, the tapes and all the services and stuff. So you didn't miss anything. And it was a pretty good deal. It was like a $70 bundle. So, I mean, you put in 80 hours that week, but you got a pretty good, deal out of it. So, but yeah.
And did they pay you for the extra time along with your complimentary Dominion Camp meeting bundle? I mean, were you getting paid, or because other people have talked about being expected to work the 40 but then volunteer the 40. And I know when I was there, I had to keep like a spreadsheet that for every extra 20 hours that you worked on top of your 40 or whatever you normally worked, so you had to work an additional 20 hours to get a day off, basically. But a lot of people didn't. The department heads were supposed to report that, and if they didn't report it, then people didn't get their time, and they didn't know it until they went to use it and it wasn't there.
Yeah. No, I mean, I do remember times getting paid some overtime on the Mac Center when we were building it. And obviously they had a lot of money, so that wasn't a big deal. But yeah, you never really got overtime, for things like that. It was not. So.
Okay. So I don't know where that kind of leads us in your time there, but I mean, what were some of the major things that were so impressionable on you, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, while you were there, or before you started kind of making your way out of there?
It's a great question. I think if I could say anything good happened there is, and I hope this reaches him maybe someday, and I hope he hears this. I know he made mistakes and he repeated the same patterns like all of us did, which he's probably not happy with, but I know he had a good heart. I really believe he had a good heart. But Joey Perea, had a big influence in my life. You know, the youth pastor. I'll never forget the words, "I believe in you," and him teaching me, you know, leadership aspects and angles, and John Maxwell talking to me about the books, and you know, today is a very important part of my life. And he helped me. He helped me a lot. I did meet some great people from there that I still stay in touch with. Some of them are kind of involved in ministries like that. I don't get involved in that discussion. Some of them are like, you know, me, they're just disgusted with it. And some of them are hurt and broken. And I try and help them, you know, and encourage them as much as I can. So that's really the good, you know, just the folks I met that I still stay in touch with. The bad, there's a lot of it. I mean, I don't know, you know, it continued on to my life after I left World Harvest College, went back home, got married. You know, it was a ministry, you know, thought doing what God wanted me to do. Youth pastor and sincere heart, just pure as I can be. And then the control that those folks have and use and learn and manipulate. And, you know, it comes from the head down. There's a saying, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so, you know, this man that's my supposed pastor, you know, was a graduate of World Harvest Bible College, you know, and he was close to Rod Parsley, would go up and preach a lot at, you know, at different things. Camp meeting once, he would go do Bible college chapels, but I'd go back, you know, I go back to his church to help. And, you know, he's going to put me on staff. He's going to do this and he's going to do that. That never happens. I burn out, you know, I'm tired. You know, they're calling me on Friday nights when I'm out on dates with my wife and saying I should be there because the youth are there. You know, I've created, you know, well, no, I didn't create, but we formed different groups like drama or dance team or whatever, and they're practicing. And why aren't you here? And I'm like, you know, and so it continued on into my life, and I just got to the point where I was like, this can't be what God's about. And I just started maybe bucking a little bit, you know, not being disrespectful, but just. And I can remember, I'll never forget the night that it changed pretty big in my life, where I stopped and I said, I'm not doing this no more. It was a Sunday evening. We were supposed to have church, you know, that evening, and the pastor had shut the youth down. We were doing really good. I don't know why he shut it down. He said, no more youth this summer. I was just like, I didn't understand it, but I didn't, you know, buck it. So he says, I said, okay. And so we didn't have youth service for a couple of weeks. And then I was like, hey, do you think we could go out tonight with the youth, just go outside? We had a facility, grounds and stuff, have a weenie roast, and, you know, just kind of hang out, chill. And nope, you can't do that. You need to be in service. You need to be getting fed. And okay. So that night I said to my wife at the time, I said, we're going to stay home. I'm just going to stay home. Let's chill, man. Let's relax, you know? And so the next day I got called to the church and told, you know, pretty much that I wasn't a man of God, that I was in rebellion, that, you know, just the things that I don't even think about it anymore. I know it's not true. It was just so belittling. It was so, it broke me at the time again. And that's when my life kind of spiraled out of control for a while, you know, did lose my marriage. And, you know, things continued on, and I had to really work hard to get back to a place in life where I am now. You know, but it's just crazy. I'll tell you one other story of a different ministry. And I'm not afraid to name this one because they're the same way. It's Judy Jacobs. And so I had moved down to a different part of the States and attended their church for a while and was going through some hard times. And she had a nephew that was preaching at the time, and it was pretty cool, man. I liked him, you know, and had a really good encounter, a Sunday morning service. I hadn't been in church like that for a long time, and I just had a really good experience with God. You know, he prayed for me. It just really, I felt God, you know, like I hadn't felt him in a long time. I was crying. I believe some things got taken care of, and then Judy wasn't there that weekend because she was out preaching somewhere else. And the next weekend she was there, and she heard about it because it was a great service. I mean, a lot of people were talking about, you know, all the things that were going on and happening. And so she had to top it. You know, the next service, I was just there having fun. I was chilling. I was in the back. I was excited. And she had to do her version of what happened the week before because, I don't know. So this is when I just was like laying there going, what in the world? But she called me down to the front. And, she's doing just the Rod Parsley annex, like, just the craziness that they do to try and gain emotions and, whatever. And laid hands on me. I fell down because she kept pushing on me and stuff. And then she's walking around me, kicking me. Get out of him, devil. Get out of him, devil. And I'm like, I thought the devil left last week, if he even was in me. I'm not possessed. I don't have the devil. But she's, doing that crazy, stupid stuff that they do just to put on a show. And I was just so disgusted. I was like, God, I tried to do it again. I tried to get involved again. I had a great experience. And the very next week, get out of him, devil, and it had to be a bigger show than the week before. And I was over it at that point. I was done. And that's when I stopped. I am not a part of church. I don't like church. I would be afraid to see somebody get born again. And then them ask me, where do I go to church, Chris? I would say, don't. You can come and talk to me. We'll sit down and we'll open the Bible and we'll talk about God. But I don't know. I don't know that any church is right, but I don't want them to go anywhere where they're going to get hurt. I want them to grow in God. I want them to, John Maxwell has another quote that success is knowing God and his purpose for your life, growing to your maximum potential and sowing seeds that help and benefit others. And I truly believe with all of my heart that if I have any purpose from God, any mission, it's to help and love people and encourage them in the right way and love them. But not put them through that kind of stuff, and to help develop them and give to them, not be the hero, not what goes on at those places. It's sad, it's sickening, and there's a lot of hurt people and broken people out there because of it.
Yeah. And I can see, obviously the sincereness in your heart, but I don't know if the Parsleys and World Harvest and these other ministries care what they do to people, but they can't because they just keep perpetuating the behavior. And it unfortunately at times leaves lifelong scars and also presents a false god or a god that I don't believe is the way they present him to be either. And that's unfortunate because there are so many good people that come there, and there's so many good people that leave there so broken, and then sometimes they do find their way, sometimes they don't find their way, but they're looking for validation and looking for this love and acceptance that only God can give, but their impression of God is so much different than what he really is, and it's really sad.
Yeah,
It's really sad.
the innocence of God, of the newborn baby Christian that just experienced it like I did when I was 12 years old. Is the purest thing I've ever seen. I've seen it a few times and I experienced it. It's beautiful. And that is what Christ is about. That's what Jesus Christ is about. That's what God, the Holy Spirit, Yahweh, Yeshua is about. Is becoming such an important part in our life and in our heart. And the experience that you can never deny, not these theatrical plays being put on, performances that go on. And I want to say to anybody, listening that may know me or may not know me, but need something, or I could help them in any way, encourage them, pray for them, that I'm here for you and I love you and I care about you. And I know that this is a hard thing. So keep your head up, keep going, and know that God is good. And out of all of this mess, you know, I maybe could wrap this whole thing up right now saying that when I was young and at college, I didn't do a whole lot because I stayed in, and I don't say this to be super spiritual, but I know my friends would all be like, you never go out and do nothing with this. Why don't you go out and do stuff? And I don't know. I honestly, sincerely stayed at home and prayed a lot. And they would make fun of me about it. And I was not trying to be super spiritual. I would be in my room praying, God, show me your heart. Show me what you want. Show me the real you. Show me what my purpose is. I don't want to know it any other way. You know, I'd be begging God. And it's crazy because these days, you know, when I think back on the things that have happened through my life, the hard times, I realize how God has brought me to that place where I think I really do understand God. Like, and he answered my prayers is what I'm trying to say. It was a crazy ride, but he's kept me. He's taken care of me. He's been faithful, and I'm not a victim. I'm very grateful for that, and I believe that can happen to anyone. So don't give up on God. God didn't do it. God still has you, and those things in time will work themselves out, and you'll learn, understand, maybe, or have a testimony for those hardships. But God is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm grateful for the connection with you. And I think that just in this short period of time with us talking, that it is going to bless and help a lot of people. And I continue to pray for you and all of the people that have had very negative experiences there, and how it kind of shapes who they are in a way, and continues at times to be a focal point in their life of either what not to do, or kind of what they're still recovering from and moving on from. So I thank you for again, just the connection, but for agreeing to come on the podcast and telling your experience. And is there anything else that you wanted to share, Chris, before we go?
You know, I feel like I've said what I wanted to say, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for what you're doing. I hope that I know this is blessing people and helping people. I've seen people on here that I knew I was close to. One of the gentlemen and you know, that you had on, I was very close to. We hung out, you know, and I'm glad to see that he's doing okay, and going on with life. And so I know God's doing good out of this. So I'm grateful for that. And you know, let's just continue to move forward and just do what, you know, the Lord places on your heart and your mind for this ministry as far as what happens. And that's all I have to worry about. I'm going to take care of mine, love God, and go forward. And
Yeah, actually love God and love people, right?
There you go. Yes.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you for being on the podcast, and thanks to everyone for watching, and continue to like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you next week for another episode. Have a good evening.